This is gonna be a bone-chilling adventure. Yoo-hoo! And thanks for tuning in to another awful movie review.
I'm very happy to meet you.
You know, sometimes in life we just keep delaying the inevitable. And when it comes to running this channel, it was my case with The Screaming Skull. No matter how much I tried to put it off, I knew I would have to one day review this abomination.
It's a bore, but I'll have to see him.
But just before we get going, if there's a bad movie you would like me to review, leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, let me know your thoughts and feelings on The Screaming Skull.
And I'll take care of that too.
So as I was saying, this checks all the boxes for cheesy, campy, low-budget schlock. There's a little bit of creepy atmosphere and decent music, but it's lacking in plot and quality acting.
I forbid you to talk about it now.
This overall feels like it was written by a 10-year-old. It's a spin on the classic haunted house premise, except that it dumbs it down to a level never before seen. What can I seriously say that hasn't already been said about this, apart from the fact that this is an excruciatingly dumb, dull, dry, and boring picture? As a matter of fact, I don't think anyone would ever remember it if it wasn't for Mystery Science Theater 3000, which featured it on their show. And in the later years, James Rolfe would also review it on Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. Ass! Newlywed couple Eric and Jenny move into their new home. We learned that Eric was previously married to another woman named Marion, who died in the garden at the same house.
Oh, she's sweet, Eric.
And he doesn't seem to be moving on too well, since a good portion of the conversations between characters revolve around his deceased wife. I mean, the guy even keeps a painting of her. Isn't that just creepy?
You know, you've got to admit it does make the room look better.
From the beginning, the movie's set up to make us think the creepy gardener Mickey, played by the director Alex Nicole, is behind all this.
Mickey caused this. He does look for Marion night after night down by that pond. And he probably comes here afterwards.
Well, there's nothing creepy about that. Doesn't it say something about the guy's decision-making that he decides to move in and bring his wife into a new house, which also comes with a mentally disturbed gardener who spends his time crawling around the place?
No, I suppose it does.
But then the spotlight shifts its focus on Jenny, since she isn't a stranger to mental illness either. She spent a year in a mental hospital after her mother died drowning. Yep, the exact same way Eric's former wife died. So, coinkydink? I think not.
How could a very poorly done self-portrait upset you so much?
Oof, roasting your own dead wife, that's the spirit. Speaking of spirits, his wife Jenny slowly starts to lose her mind, suspecting the house is haunted. She has visions of a screaming skull which keeps appearing out of nowhere.
Well, that isn't very unusual.
Now, you guys know me. When I found out this movie generously gave free burial services to those who would die of fright watching this,
Its producers feel they must assure free burial services to anyone who dies of fright while seeing The Screaming Skull.
I thought I was getting myself into some real heart-pounding terror.
I'm terribly afraid.
Well, oh man, was I wrong. Talking about a skull is appropriate because this whole movie feels dead. A lot of this is just made up of dry dialogue and long scenes of characters just standing there doing nothing. It's trying too hard to be suspenseful and it just winds up not moving, seriously. The characters sometimes barely do anything.
Darling, if you go on talking that way, you destroy the whole purpose.
So, since the rest of the story isn't interesting, in the end, was there really such a thing as a screaming skull?
It's all very, very real.
Or was Jenny just having another mental breakdown again? Well, neither one nor the other. This movie sure fooled us. Eric is the mastermind behind this elaborate scheme. The man's whole intentions from the beginning was to kill his second wife in order to get her inheritance, since we find out Jenny's from a wealthy family. It's also heavily implied that the first wife didn't die from an accident, but was murdered by Eric for the same reasons. Well, fair enough, Eric, but why this whole charade with the skulls then? Why try to frighten her by placing them all around? What good is that going to do?
We've been all through that nonsense last night.
But then guess what? His dead wife actually returns from the grave and crashes the party to get revenge on Eric. This was an unforeseen turn of events. Overall, this is a real mess. The Screaming Skull is one of the stupidest genre pictures to come out during the 50s. I think they should have offered free burial services for those who died of boredom while watching this. I think that would have worked much better. What an awful movie.